Hello, friends. I'm here to talk to you about Bitcoin. It is scared of $60,000. Bitcoin is wetting its pants. Will it actually pull it together and get above that price point or not? That's what we'll be discussing in today's show. Thank you so much for joining me. Really do look forward to seeing everybody in the chat and saying hello to you all. If you're wondering who I'm of course the bad guy from Karate Kid 2. If you've seen that movie, that was me there. That was, teaching them how to hit bits of wood and stuff like that. That was me. And I'm here now to help you look at Bitcoin technical analysis and see if we can get any insights into what's going on. And we'll be taking a look at a couple of other rising stars that have been out there in the world of crypto of late. Let me just scroll down and get one of them up here. For example, Harmony One having gone up and up and up and up and up and looking absolutely wonderful against the old US dollar. And in fact, it's also looking pretty good against the Bitcoin prices. Now, if I just stick this on the weekly chart here, you can see that the price of Harmony One has come up, versus Bitcoin, up past its original starting point by a chunk this week. And then it's looking towards, could it go up towards its all-time highs versus Bitcoin? And that'll be a really interesting dynamic that happens in the market if that does indeed happen, with a number of coins which we can take a look out for, because that would change the sort of gear for a lot of people in their heads, what they're thinking about the markets and all that good stuff, in terms of whether or not they're going to be trading against the US dollar or the Bitcoin prices. We've got Ethereum Classic here versus USD looking back the way, doing really, really well, considering, has obviously dropped down a fair whack since last week, but overall done really, really well. Versus Bitcoin, however, miles away from its highs, of course. So that's distinct to what we're seeing there with the likes of Harmony One. And I just wanted to bring up another one of the big stars of the day, and this week and the last couple of weeks, Holochain, and how well it's been doing. And on the big time frames here, the weekly, just everything just looks really rosy overall, and it's a huge bull trend. And we're looking down towards the 24-hour time frame. Yes, of course, there's a bit of the old bullish divergence on the RSI and the stochastics, but we're still looking pretty good in terms of the MACD, and we've come up an awfully long way. You kind of have to pop this onto logarithmic at this point, to start to get a good look at how these things are shaping up. And of course, it's up above the moving average here, this yellow line. It's the 8-period exponential moving average, and it's of course up above the 18 period as well. We do get retracements back down towards these areas, and of course that would represent a fairly big chunk off of the price, but wonderful stuff. And how is it looking against Bitcoin? Go back onto the weekly time frame. Yes, so this is the sort of thing which is what I was kind of looking for when we kind of break past really significant areas here in the past, come back down and retest them, and then maybe the focus on coins like this can kind of capture a slightly different chunk of the audience out there looking for coins to invest in when they think about its performance versus Bitcoin, because of course that's a big consideration for a lot of coins. This is Chainlink, for example, and it did really, really well for a very long time versus Bitcoin. That gets a lot of eyeballs on these things. Tezos, it just hasn't really done that yet for us. Really hasn't done it for it yet. But we could be looking here at a potential turnaround for us on the weekly time frame. We're not getting massive signs of it. There's this potential if we did come down and close equally low, you'd be looking at most probably getting some bullish divergence there. But I mean, that's asking for a lot here. Just would prefer to not actually challenge that again and just put in a higher high overall, coming up past that 1000 area. And if we do that, then we can kind of forget about this downward trend for a wee while, potentially having taken out highs against the in this overall potential turnaround zone for us. And instead of looking for any sort of further movements down the way, we could satisfy ourselves and thinking about from the market top down to the lows. if we got up above that 1,300 area. I can see they've got a lot of other got a lot of other drawings on this chart here from time doing this. Of course, I'm the OG technical analyst on the old Tessos here on YouTube, and this kind of mess, I suppose, goes to highlight that. We're still kind of asking, can we achieve something here, and actually move towards top side, take away these silly lines, and point out the fact that, you know, so long as we're staying above our previous low over here, then I'm fairly happy to think that potentially we could be going in for just a turnaround in the overall market. We've got a big volume coming in here, just like we saw a big volume coming in towards the end of these highs. You know, it'd be nice to see if that could be the sort of stopping volume of the downward movement and get some turnaround towards the top side. And taking out this 236 here, on this particular Fibonacci, let me just show you, that's from the previous from the big retracement back up the way, when we broke down towards the 1,000 Satoshi area, or 10,000 Satoshis I should actually say, and then retraced back up, and it looked great. We took out a 618 of a previous Fibonacci, you know, but actually we came all the way back down the way, and yeah, just get rid of some more of these. In fact, don't need as many of them. So that's the 236 right in there as well, from between this high over here. But none of these are just all the times that we were looking at for this to try and potentially turn around in the past that have been extended down the way. That's all they really are, to when we eventually came in here and put in this all-time low on this particular chart, versus Bitcoin. So it really just comes from that previous high, and that's when we're looking towards that 1,000 or 13,000 area. It would be so fantastic to see this actually get a potential turnaround against it, but it's not doing, obviously, the likes of what we're seeing with that hot coin having taken out those highs at the top side of it. So I wonder if everything's going all right in the stream. I'll just take a second to check how it's going. Concurrent viewers 8, that's good, because there's nobody in the chat box. Say hello to me in the chat if you're watching along, and I'll say hello back. And we can chat for a wee bit about whatever you want to see in the old cryptocurrency markets. But I'm kind of just looking across the different coins at the moment and thinking, are any of them going to get a shift in focus back towards how they're performing versus Bitcoin? And the likely candidates that people want to be looking to, I suppose, are the likes of Cardano. And again, just making the same comparison as before, that obviously we're quite a ways away from these highs that we've had in the past, in that lovely period of bullishness back then. Can we keep going on up the way? Well, yeah. FOMO inducing. There's been a lot of FOMO inducing moments here with the old Cardano, and even in this is the weekly chart as a quick reminder, even in this week we've seen got all these hearts all over the charts, kind of funny. Even in this week we've seen 45% gains, well, in terms of a range there. Not too sure when we put in the lows or the highs overall, but we've seen quite a big movement towards the top side, and we're sitting here beneath the 236. That's not correct. Sitting here above the 236, above that heart, actually, above this horizontal, the illustrated line at the 22,000, probably that number is, or 2,200 here on this chart, Satoshis. But we're, you know, still a ways away from this high at the minute, and can we take that out? But of course, you know, we're a ways away from the very, very top end, and I want to see something happen somewhere along the ways. But you know, just to see if there's anything that's really taking advantage of the movement that we've seen down the way on the Bitcoin dominance over the last wee while. We've been talking about this over the last week. I suppose it's fair enough to check in on it and see again, you know, since its movement down the way, coming down towards 61 and managing to find its feet again. And if there's anything that's really kind of pushing up the way that anybody particularly wants to take a look at, we could. Oh, nice to see you here. See Walku says he's cooking dinner and watching along. That's fantastic. Hope you're having some nice dinner. So that was what we're talking about with regards to the Bitcoin dominance chart, and just to bring up the total chart so we can see how the overall markets are doing. You can see that we're continuing to rise towards the top side, looking really, really great. But we haven't actually taken out that previous high. Of course, we've got a little bit of work to do. That's that final 3% that Walter White used to always go on about, the hardest ones to get. Then, of course, you can push on up the way. And just to jump back over to Bitcoin, I suppose itself, this is the chat that we were having over the period of the last wee while, that there's a little bit of the consolidation happening in around about this point, and with a bit of volatility that we're seeing as well. This is 24-hour time frame. Was there a bit of a wedge, etc.? We looked at the fingerprint with regards to the movements up and retraces back down, did that on Monday, and we saw that they're coming down here towards this 50% area that we talked about on the stream on Wednesday was nice, and could we see a movement up, etc.? And then the target at that sort of 59, what did I say the target was? 59,999, I guess I've probably just said, instead of going up as high as 60,200. Not exactly sure what I said the target was, whatever. Good stuff. Then we pulled back down the way towards the 56,000, and today it looks like we're up 2.46%, of course, but the movement overall towards where we are at the minute is this nearly 5%. So really kind of nice positive day, but it's all in the face of this that we've seen recently, which is this volatility over the last few days. As the police go outside, they're not happy about it either. The highs and lows there, 5% down. Of course, it went on down. Overall, a movement between those two areas of 6.5%. Before then, we came back up the way, and that's the sort of thing that, of course, a lot of higher leverage traders find themselves kind of getting washed out and asking questions. What am I doing here? What am I doing there? And we're still looking just towards the larger overall trend and saying it's towards the top side. We do have this diminishing volume, but there's not a massive candle to say, hey, it's like blow off, huge trend turnaround type candles like we talk about with regard to how we saw big candles coming in here and here in the Tezos chart, where you can see a distinct difference between the highs and lows as we moved along, as an example from what we talked about already on the show. So we're not seeing that necessarily, pardon me, with that, although of course, you know, as you can see with the diminishing peaks in the volume here, that coincides with these previous highs, which coincides as well with this bearish divergence we're seeing on the money flow index. Just to carry that through, we didn't see that in terms of the moving average convergence divergence, where we could see that of course there was a nice stretch up the way overall with these two decent moves towards the top side, following on from 50% retraces against themselves. Then this final one here that only came up as high as the 618, and we've just then been consolidating since. Is it fair to say this is this type of phase that you see the market for a few days before potentially continuing on up the way, or is it not quite yet? So making a little sort of comparison back the way. This was divergence and all in, was it that much divergence? Little tastes of it, yeah, of course, big chunks moves. Actually, what I'm saying here, of course, let's look in between these highs and lows, then we're talking 15%, etc. So big moves as well, all kind of diminishing out the way as we can see. This is the logarithmic chart, so bring up the chart full screen and let you see on the linear chart as a comparison point. You know, it's a little bit more stretched looking with these big pullbacks down the way. So it's just another one of them so far, and we're waiting to see if we can push on up and actually get a full nice movement up the way like we've had the last few times, taking us up towards those other targets that we've talked about, several of them along the way, in the mid 60s up to the 70s, 72 even, in terms of some of them. And there's various different ways you can arrive at these sorts of conclusions in terms of targets towards the top side. Easy ones, you know, just like in terms of looking at where we've come from since having beating our previous high, and up towards the 1618 takes you up towards 68,500 as an example for the 1618 Fibonacci retracement. That's essentially just to say, if we were to go retrace 100% against this move here, as we have done, and then continue on up the way 68% of the depth of this move past the point of its high, etc., then that's where you'd be going to overall. That's the Fibonacci type idea of things, and like there's, you know, it's all overall just giving us a time to to, you know, having pushed outside the Bollinger Band at the top here, come back down, retrace, found a moving average, you know, here in terms of a wick down the way, and then the support at the 8, or else are we breaking down past this and going to come down and test the 20 simple period moving average, which is sloping towards the top side, and everything's looking bullish, other than, you know, simple kind of dynamics at play in the market, which you could identify with things like this wedge that you have on the go just here. For example, if we do push down the way, then breaking down past our previous structural low at that 48,000. So if we were to go down, you know, a big chunk here, of 9,000 or so, then you'd be looking at potentially breaking structure of this overall kind of parabolic upward move, and looking to take out the measured move of that wedge as well, with movements beyond the lower end of the Bollinger Band at that point as well, especially, and you'd be looking down towards the 40,000 area, just to hope for the next area of support, which, when you consolidate into a bigger time frame, is still taking out the lows on the on the weekly, in terms of the monthly time frame, where would that take you down to? Yeah, it actually undoes the monthly candle, all of the goodness from the month, and that would turn that into a red month. And then, of course, from a broad perspective that you can see, then that would be the first, you know, red month. So that would be a big undoing of where we are right now. So that would be, of course, the most catastrophic effect towards the downside. And we've talked about the upside targets here on this particular Fibonacci, just, you know, save me from having to zoom in and tell you exactly where it's from. We can see that the high is coming in there at 72,000. So you could be looking between either of those areas that I spoke to if you're looking for that next sort of big chunk up the way, and that's kind of what we've been seeing in the markets so far as part of this bullish trend. Making sure not to get wiped out too much in the meantime. Nice to see you in there in the chit chatter box. Good to see you, Stanley. How you doing? Good to see you there, Randy, and good to see you, Scotty Sniper. Hi, folks. In fact, I'll bring up the chat thing. Hello, folks. There you are down below. Chitter chatter. Good to see you. And that is the Bitcoin story. So we can come back and zoom on in that. If anybody wants to sort of get any more detail, really just kind of broadening things out a wee bit towards the end of the week. Obviously at the start of the week, what we talked about was this zone for us here, and did I talk about that at the start of the week, or was that to talk about that on Wednesday? Regardless, we then the consolidation phase that we're going through with the volatility that's obviously then been a part of this period, and just looking between those highs and lows, and it's 12% towards the downside, and then of course making our way back up the way, and that just makes for kind of, you know, opportunity, really, to be honest with you, if you're willing to take and manage risk appropriately. So you don't need to, you know, you don't need to carry any particular long all the way down 12%. You don't need to carry any particular short all the way up, you know, 12% or so. You can always get in and out of trades and manage them. But I'm not a financial advisor. None of this is financial advice. However, if you do want to talk to me, I suppose, and get some help with your trading, then you can do that through the Discord for the Patreon members, the ones that are actually there joined up to Patreon. And if you want to know the Patreon link, just sticking it out here, then it is, of course, patreon.com/rocky.outcrop. And I suppose what I've been thinking maybe I would maybe do at some points is, if I can get into the swing of doing those tighter streams, because how far are we into this one at the minute? 18 minutes in. If I can get into that swing of things like I was doing on Monday and Wednesday, where I kept the stream content really down to an hour and then was just catching up with folk, then after that I suppose maybe I could move over to the Discord and kind of talk to people about what we talked about in the show, and try and get the ball rolling a bit there, because everybody's doing that thing that's already in there, is kind of just staying fairly quiet at the minute, and that's fine. But let's just get the chat going at some point for all the patrons out there, and of course that number will grow over time, and then of course everybody, you know, it'll become a natural thing. But it'd be best for everybody else that's joining later on to get into the swing of things and see how things are going. I can see that TradeSpot put in a trade, for instance. Somebody go along and check that sort of stuff out. That was with regards to Reef. Let's actually bring up Reef. Have I got it on my big old list here? No. Got it on this one. I'll add it to this. Up 5% today. Lovely move through the Bollinger Band here, the 4-hour time frame, moving through the basis line of the Bollinger Band, taking out that moving average and then flying up towards the top side. Will we find that this recent cross between the 8 and 18 give us what we need to see to keep going towards the top side? Overall, at the minute as well, if we did come back down towards testing this 20 period moving average here, then that would be fine, and we put in another sort of higher low, and that would be nice to see with this low high so anywhere here and then on up the way, and perhaps get to this area of nice and reduced liquidity and push on up the way, and of course doing that with a degree of momentum would be good. I don't like the massive candle that's here in the volume as we went up to that high, but let's just smooth that out a little bit by going up towards the 2-day time frame and seeing that, yeah, indeed, it was an increase in volume overall. While we've had this low, let's try and see. It would be great if this could push on up the way and really do something fantastic in terms of its movement towards the top side. Just overcome. It wasn't actually divergent, of course, because that isn't higher in terms of this 2-day time frame. It was a close call thing when it came to the daily time frame. We were looking at potential class B, but in the broad perspective, the weekly we actually did put in a high, and all we've really got going at the minute is the fact that this is in an upward trend, and it's just it's a good buy on the weekly, which has got F all candles, and obviously on the monthly time frame it's a good buy as well. So there's a decent trade set up in there. Wonder if anybody took it and took advantage of it, because it was in there. So if you did, Will P, hey Rocky, I love playing my hamster, he says there. That's interesting. And he likes to gobble up on the hamster, and he loves he's just really enamored with his hamster over there, that fella. That's interesting. That's interesting. You can read all that for yourself down below. I guess that's somebody trying, in some senses, to destroy any clip that I would have made out of that area on the old chitter chatter. Well, it just goes to show you that's not normal for somebody to be doing that sort of chatting here. But there you go, interesting stuff, nevertheless. What are we doing in here in the rest of the coins? This is monthly time frame. I can see this head of that dragon. It's not actually a dragon pattern, or maybe it's not. Just all the way drop down towards the 4-hour time frame there to take a look at our friend Monero. Its previous highs up there in that sort of 280 area, and can we continue towards the top side? Doing really well in terms of moving up and putting in higher highs and higher lows. This period here has then led into a period of consolidation. Let me just bring myself up full screen for a wee bit, actually. Haha, that's better. So yeah, with the Monero prices here, XMR USDT, we can see that there's been a nice rise towards the top side, and this is filmed during a live stream, by the way. Join me for a live stream sometime, and I'd love to see you there. And this is the potential sort of overall channel that we're in, or sugar. I actually do wonder if I should bother putting this in log scale like that, and just talk about things from log scale really more often when I've been looking out for potential larger moves. Maybe that's better. That's probably what I'll do. Not talk about it negatively. This is the Monero chart, XMR USDT, and you can see that we've been putting in highs higher lows and higher highs so far. This most recent period of price action, looking at it since the low of the 16th of March up to the recent high on the 18th of March, we can see that we didn't actually manage to take out our previous highs in there, and we kind of consolidate a little bit, but it does lead into a potential pattern for us. We could be looking at this as an ascending triangle in this region if we actually manage to therefore stay more or less then within the Bollinger Bands here. Even if we do see them tightening off the way, then what you'll be getting an impression from two things at once, of course, is that there is this potential for a larger move to come in, and actually we could be looking then between the high and low over here as a rough guideline towards where our high would be, and that would be 270, bringing us up quite a way towards our previous toppy zone in there. So if we did get a positive payoff from this in a nice move overall, what we would be looking for would be this to be confirmed then at this point as having been hidden bullish divergence, and we have got that overall on most of the oscillators. That's nice to see. The last period of really low volatility with a lack of strength of trend ended here in this previous tightening of the Bollinger Bands in around about the 12th of March period, before the big up and down again, ticking off this indicator in terms of saying that we have indeed retraced as far as we needed to in that front. And of course then we have a resumption of something that could be bringing us towards getting out of the doldrums if we have, you know, this positive cross really kind of take us up a little bit and we get a bit of more movement towards the top side. Now of course I would expect probable not expect necessarily, but it would be probable to see some sort of retest if we did break this anytime soon. It'd be front running it to an extent, and I would look for more sort of movements in it around about, you know, the 10% range, really maximum sort of 5-10% really in terms of trading this one, rather than of course sort of trying to play the whole breakout in and of itself right there and then. Either if you're looking in either direction, if you were looking towards low sides, then of course then it doesn't take out this previous low on the 6th of March, and that's you know, obviously going to be important for us, because when you look at the bigger time frames, you know, structurally we'd be okay so long as we stay above that zone. Just even continuing this as an overall upward trend with a high and a higher low and a higher high, and anything in there would be higher low before, you know, hopefully then resuming the upward trend overall. So the question really is, in terms of Monero, can we actually see the price action respect the Fibonacci retracement zones here, or will we push on past them? At this moment in time, we're consolidating right at the golden pocket. So if we're looking for that 100% retrace, then of course this is a nice enough area to do that in, giving people opportunities to really kind of, you know, hedge, manage their risk appropriately at the highs and lows here. And then if we did move up the way, what the target could be past our previous high comes in at 362, and that's what I'd be looking for on that one. I'm going to go back over and do a couple of these other ones. I'm going to just take a quick look at Holo Chain or something like that, because I think that those are the ones which are going to be popular at the minute. This is Harmony one first, because I've already got it on my list here. Harmony one first because we talk about this on the channel. We talked about this on the channel a fair few times. There was an old stuff. I mean, look at the moves that we were talking about as well, just like looking to take a move from here up to here. And of course then, as we can see, that actually did work out perfectly and was the inflection point for the next big move up the way. Nice. It's always nice looking back at old TA. So when was that from? Just at the start of the year there. Excellent stuff. And of course, since the start of the year, what we're looking at on this coin, since, you know, we talked about that, since you took profit on that move, then I suppose you could say it's gone up another 2,000%. So there's obviously plenty of opportunity to be had in here. It's done all of those retracements towards the top side, as we can see here. The last time we actually really had any sort of consolidation was at that 1618 at the 20 or the 2 cent area. As we can see, we pushed up towards the 3 cent area, then we pulled back down towards that 2 cent area again at the 1618. So then, kind of looking back at the bigger picture one, where did we get to next? You know, the 48 price point, we did see the prices have a little bit of inflection there. If I jump down towards the 24-hour time frame, we can see in it around about that zone, we saw the next, well, a little bit, not much, hey, and we're then continuing to rocket towards the top side, having taken out the 4.236 Fibonacci there, touched it. So really absolutely fantastic price action versus the dollar, and that's really, really, really great to see, because it actually sets up to be looked at against the Bitcoin prices. Let me just find that on my list over here. Makes us give us a look at the Bitcoin prices here, and we can see that there is fantastic movement towards the top side. Now we're ways away from that all-time high, and in terms of, like, you know, having gone really into the blue sky zone on the dollar pricing, looking at it on the Bitcoin pair, and you can see that there's a massive amount left still for us to move up the way. If we're at 200 at the moment, then we can see that the top was in at around about 400, so there's another 100% left in terms of the ability for it to move up the way, and that can be then looked at with the Fibonacci retracement tools just as well. We'll take away the Bollinger Band, and we'll zoom in on this in a second with regards to the Bollinger Band. This is, of course, Harmony 1 that we're talking about right now. And you can see the 236 back here, the 50% area, giving us a little bit of jip, I suppose. That's fair enough. 50%, that's what you'd look to, so long as the prices stay above, and as they have done overall so far, the 158 area. Then the next one to look to is going to be 250, and that's, of course, another 25% move towards the top side. So these things are all absolutely within the realm of reason, which is quite fantabulous when you think about it. And on the 24-hour time frame, you can see that, of course, we've pushed outside the Bollinger Band. Yes, of course, over the next couple of days, we could see retracements back down the way, maybe knocking 10% off the prices to come in here and catch that 188 area, and that might be, you know, overall healthy for us. You can see the 3-day time frame really pushing outside the Bollinger Band, the weekly likewise as well. The monthly time frame, then, of course, you know, it's the Bollinger Bands don't even really exist on it, because this is a relatively young thing. So but as we can see, though, on the lower time frames, there is this little bit of movement where we're tracing towards the top side. You know, it's still very much bullish until it isn't. Now there's bearish divergence here on all of these oscillators as well. Okay. And that's not great, but there's just this little kind of glimmer here of maybe do we push up one last time here, maybe try, and if we did, then would we be able to take out this potential for divergence just there and kind of change the story a little bit. You know, you've got this on the ADX, it's sloping towards the top side as we've seen the prices being able to stay above the 30 price point here, the DM positive, as we talk about on the show. So like all this sort of stuff happening, kind of thinking, you know, is there some potential for us to just push on up a little bit here and take out this last little inflection here, you know, kind of do that and move up the way? Well, there is, but it's highly risky, because what we're looking at here is already something that's up 23% in the last 24 hours, maybe in terms of just this calendar day. In fact, in the last 24 hours, we're up even more, doing really loads. Great. Was it up 50%? It said on Binance earlier on. I don't know. So then we were also looking at Holochain. Hi guys in there. Nice to see you. Trey, good to have you there, buddy. Nice to see you this evening. Hope you're doing well. And you got the hamster whisperer there earlier on saying some stuff in the stream, which I don't know. It's just like, I don't know if they were trying to be a troll or not. They say they liked the stream, so that's nice, isn't it? So that's nice. I mean, you got to like it when people like the stream. And actually, that reminds me, everybody that's watching along, if you would hit that like button, that would be absolutely super fantastic. It helps people find the stream. We've only got 15 viewers. You know, I'm trying to help show the potential for things to look quite good on these coins, which have already moved hugely towards the top side. Like, is there that on the go? Holochain has, you know, this distinct downward negative momentum with regards to the moving averages since the high that came in, but measuring that out, actually looking at it and kind of just looking at it, being brave about it, you can see we actually came down and got the 618 area, and then managed to, with our closes, respect the 50% area. We're up above the 382 currently. We've actually come up and touched and been just in it around about that 236, and that's not a million miles away to invalidating this Fibonacci, and this is, you know, possible to happen thereafter. If this this were to turn into hidden bullish divergence, you'd be looking at a lovely play towards the top side. And what would that be? Perhaps, you know, with this one, hot BTC, if we were looking at it, perhaps, you know, we could be looking up as high as that price point there. Was it 22,684? Is that currently at 13,000? So that's 100%. Really kind of from where we are at the minute in terms of a movement towards the top side. Is that possible? Well, yeah, it's possible. We've seen this happen recently. But what we want to be looking out for, of course, is this 618 area. That ties in with where that 236 was. So taking the 618 out, then of course is fantastic to see, because it's invalidating that other Fibonacci, increasing the likelihood then of better movements towards the top side and even going on beyond that. But of course, if we close back down below it again, then that is the 236 back active again, and we're looking at the lower end of that range coming down towards 10,000. So it's still a fairly decent chunk, you know, 30% movement. But when you're talking about the 100% up towards the top side, then 30% towards the downside, that's the type of, you know, volatility you might have to look for or stomach, I suppose, in terms of cryptocurrency world, where you're looking at a 3-to-1 trade, where of course at one point in it you could conceivably be down 30%. I mean, it sounds kind of preposterous really overall, but that's what that would be potentially. Of course, taking that area out, then you have to maybe eat that 30% loss. But this is what we're looking at. I mean, can we continue to do these things towards the top side? Now, we have got issues that we've spoken about, and they're a little bit more clear here with regards to the contraction between these 2 points, as overall upward movement on the negative, as this overall downward movement, you know, that we're seeing here, is that giving us that kind of that area where we're asking, was that a blow off top, etc. But then the 618 Fibonacci retracement point and everything else, you know, if you're looking to manage your risk, etc., it's easy enough done. If you were just trading maybe perhaps between the 50 and the 618, moving your stop up away, etc., or whatever perhaps technique you particularly want to use. I'm not a financial advisor. I would point out that the top end of the Bollinger Bands is coming in there at that 14,000 area, so you know there's nice moves to be had here. You know, 10% up, well, 5% up from where we are now is a profit taking target, as the prices have already moved up to the 11%. So you know, that's the current greed factor that we're seeing all around the market. So we're not actually taking out our previous high overall, so we want to be doing that obviously as well. But counterintuitively, if we're looking to turn this around from this point here, and that be our departure point from that 618, then it's okay at the minute, because we're actually just kind of skimming along, not getting that divergence, giving us the opportunity to kind of then push on past the way. And then therefore, you know, continue to encourage this Bollinger Band to move towards the top side, and hopefully trace along it with our bodies, you know, and there will be volatility and blood. This high that's come in here most recently in the 24-hour time frame is not divergent on the MACD, and not divergent on the money flow index either. That's not my favorite for divergence. It is on the RSI, and it isn't on the DMI, and it is on the stochastics, but we have this potential for this cross happening just now, you know. So it's all on for us with potential big moonshots currently. Let's take a look at our friends on the CMEs. Oh wow, they've enjoyed a nice movement towards the top side, have they? Well, not quite actually over here on this Ethereum CME chart. In fact, what we're seeing is that there's this negative kind of overall strength of trend happening, and comparing that to the price action, we can see that then we don't have bullish divergence and bearish divergence, etc. It's just not enough here. We've managed to respect the neutral line of that, so kind of, you know, it's not getting carried away quite yet. The potential for hidden bearish divergence, you know, the potential for this just turned around, it's too early to say overall, but that exists on the charts here on Ethereum. That is of course the futures ones trading at 1830, jumping on over towards the Ethereum spot prices trading at 1826. So you're seeing that there's not much of a contangled nature. They're not really willing to put their money where their mouths are quite yet. What we've seen so far then is just yet more more of the same from what we talked about throughout the start of the week, having identified this like diamond potential. We talked about trading within the range versus trading outside the range, and it's the same chat as before. So we're above 1793 where the 236 is. Nice to see. We're dancing around inside just above that golden pocket as well, so that's of course nice to see. That's that same sort of exact same comparison we were making with regards to the other coins that we're talking about. With the 618 and the 236 lining up, and that's of course just to be expected given the nature of this previous pullback, you know, overall lining up the way with a 618 as well. So this is the overall schema of things. If we can push past this point, it gives us the consolidation in here, gives us the momentum perhaps to put in new highs and carry on up the way and actually take out another 10% move towards the top side for a first target of sort of 2200 area, and then the next one at the 1618 and they're at 2500, and that's what we've got our eyes out for presently. There are other higher targets up the way, you know, we could got plenty of time and scope for speculating about that. If we did actually push on the way, you know, really sort of had something crazy happen and the prices move rapidly for and without stopping, which isn't that crazy in the world of crypto, then there's a few targets that you'd be looking to as well. Higher up, and you know, the $3,000 area is a round number, and that would be, you know, something to be taken a look out for, but no point speculating past certain points as yet. As we let me actually see where's the price action in relation to this. Now, a lot of educational stuff happened here at one point, just trying to figure out where it is in terms of the pitchfork. Right, yeah, so we're still trying to figure out whether we're going up or down here at this point. As you can see, right at the edge of that pitchfork we drew in the past. That's not for everybody, that little viewpoint, but that's something for people who watch along all the time. And here we have it, same stuff happening with Chainlink. You know, we've done again precisely the movements that were just the trading range that we're in at the minute until such times as we actually push past, you know. 618 golden pocket retraces back up towards just shy of the 32 area, 3150, not able to take out the 618 golden pocket, coming back down the way. Where do we find our support coming in at? Well, you know, a couple of regions, just you can see with the wicks here that we've come down towards where that 236 is, bang on it perfectly. Then of course move towards the top side, putting in lows of today at $28.70 and highs of $30 as well, currently finding it at 31. So if you're looking at Chainlink at the minute and you're looking beyond those zones, well then you're doing something more than just trading where we have been over the last few days, and that's totally fine. Then what could you be looking for? And there's a number of little, you know, ways that you might be thinking about this. Let's just kind of do it from on this chart here from the point of view of the 24-hour time frame, just to make it easier for us to fit the drawings on dead easy. So from that high to our low here, we're obviously above the 236 at that red line. Profit taking targets for our next move up, just for within the body move, is going to be at that $30.35. So, you know, 30 cents up from where we are right now if you're trading it in a really sort of smaller term time frame. We'll sanitize that by looking in at this a little bit tighter, you know, after all. But I get a lot of questions from people talking about how you can look at things across different time frames, etc. And there's a million different ways of approaching that. You know, this is one particular vector, if you like. And what we're seeing here then is, of course, if we did push up past our previous highs, our next high comes in at 33, and that of course is the next profit taking target. And that'd be a glorious juicy one up, giving us a nice 10% overall move up the way and putting in a nice expected range, you know, area for potential profit taking at here between these two zones. And of course we know in the past that there's been one where we've had inflection at, and there's also this sort of the round number effect. So if you're looking at this, you might want to be saying that I'll take profit at all the threes. That's how I would be talking about it anyway, but you know me, that's how I talk about these things. 33, 33, 33, 33 would be a decent area, but then will we even make it past 31, 31, 31, 31, 31? Okay. That's the thing. People will be looking at this in the terms of smaller time frame as opportunities. in around about these zones. The top end of the Bollinger Band's coming in there at 31.50-ish area. The lower end here coming down there at 29, you know, where the baseline is, in it here at the 29 buck zone of that red horizontal, and then of course the lower end in at 27 sort of zone. In terms of the 15-minute time frame, then kind of bringing all of that into perspective from before, we can see that if we bring the price action up, that we've got a couple of highs in here. Is it just lower than it? It's just lower than it. So that what could have been divergence just here actually hasn't, you know, properly checked in as such. The previous area of divergence did though work to an extent, and that's all it pulled it down as far as that. So we didn't take out any market structure areas, and therefore this actually lines up neatly with the 236 coming in here at around about $30 15 cents, all right, call it that, and taking that out and pushing up the way past the $30 area, $30.30 is going to be taking out that median line of the Bollinger Band. The top end of the Bollinger Band coming in there at 30.45. Could we do that again and at some point be able to sort of pull the trigger on some sort of a move? Now we've got this overall structure in it around about these zones. If you want to call it that way, you could do it just like that as well if you like. Looking at this and saying there's just some sort of wedge or something here. Well, all this is really describing to us is the same thing as everything else, that we're within a couple of ranging areas, and we're looking at it and saying that that is the story of the 24-hour time frame that we looked at already is applying down the way. We haven't, you know, if we push down past this zone here, which wouldn't be a huge ask in terms of the 15-minute time frame, then that would be, of course, taken out. Well, that would, you know, that's, well then, you know, you can see it on the 15-minute time frame how that would be a resumption of this negativity, having already broken past that high. Now we did do it with a little kind of false effect of divergence here in the smaller time frame, so we're absolutely still set up to move on up the way, and it would be beautiful to see it happen and take out that zone, which would be like more like a 1 hour type head and shoulders, inverse head and shoulders type affair at the lower end here with a sort of neckline, Adam and Eve double bottom zone here just at the lower end of the Bollinger Band, and then capturing it here again, the 1 hour time frame. So overall it's looking like, you know, that would be that. I don't even know if I'll make any of these into clips, to be perfectly honest with you. Crypto Planet, hey Rocky, hey Crypto Planet, good to see you. Stanley Knife, hey mate. Hi mate. Trey, good to see you. Hey Welku, hey Stanley. Quiet in here today. Yeah, it is, isn't it? I've been keeping an eye on Chainlink and SKL, that's Skull Coin, but I'm a complete amateur, not financial advice. Skull's had some degree of movement, hasn't it, recently? If we just bring up the Skull chart, you can see that what we're looking at here is a coin which is not shy 1 hour time frame of movements of 10%, you know, over the period of a few hours. 12%, 10%, 11%, 10%, 18%, about 14%. Kind of missed it. You know, you get the point. And what the point here that I'm really actually getting at, for, by the way, Trey, is that there's an opportunity to be had here. This is a 1 hour time frame. Now, when you look at it on the 4 hour time frame, what you're seeing is this affair here, and it's obviously a downward trend. So what you've been looking at here would have been opportunities to take chunks and just, you know, be happy enough with it and move down 10%, you take a profit, that's great, moves back up the way, and then so long as it doesn't do a couple of things at once, we can see that the Bollinger Bands never really actually get broken, and this is leading up to me talking about this latest phase in here, right? So there's a lead up here. For anybody watching along, what we're looking at right now is Skull USDT, traded on Binance. And get rid of this. Where's this? All right. So what we can see here is that between the highs and the lows, taking this high and this low in here, for example, you can see that we did push past the 236. And where did we come up as high as the 618? But we didn't beat it, right? we can do the same thing again between this high and this subsequent low, and zoom on in the way and see 50% that time. Okay, we could do the next thing as well and say, what did we get here? Going down the way towards this area, and what did we get? A 618. Okay, but we didn't take out the 618. So what we're looking at there is we're saying that if we go past the 236, then there's a strong chance that we'll of course crack up towards the next up area. You can do it between these next two, you know, and then if you're looking at it across a broader perspective, then that's going to stretch out the way, and we can see here that the 382 was tested after the 236, but nothing more, right, etc., etc., along the way. So we can see that the significance of breaking past these lower areas on the Fibonacci is extended as we take in more highs and lows across what would obviously be a range on something on a bigger time frame that you can see quite clearly, gone down to a slightly lower time frame to look at the oscillations within that. And of course, if you were to then go on down to an even lower time frame and check back the way, then you would see that, you know, that in terms of like actually, well, in terms of actually trading this, if you were looking at it from a sort of intraday perspective, the same psychology and approach exists when it comes to looking at it, you know, in the same sorts of charting principles on a broader time frame, of course, quite easily. But you can see that the opportunity is right there, you know, to be able to get in and out, manage positions, and take positions where you're actually managing your risk effectively, looking at certain zones and saying, well, I'm happy enough to take a trade at this zone or this zone, depending, you know, and if it goes past the next zone, well, then I'll stop out the way. So in these instances where we saw, for example, in these instances where we saw, this section is kind of today's trading education then, if you like. In these instances where we saw that between the high and the low and this initial impulse back up the way, then, you know, once we've gone past the 236 over here, then you could have been saying to yourself, I'll stop out towards the downside if we actually take this area out again. And as you can see in here, this precise zone again is when we pushed on down the way, coming in for a much more significant move down. You know, we moved down 10%, sure, we moved up 10% sort of thing, and we moved down, etc., 5 sort of percent, but then we came in here for another big 16% movement after we actually took out these zones. So that's these sorts of the sort of psychology that exists in and around about these areas, then you can see quite clearly just on that front. Okay, and that would have been a great opportunity. But of course, in terms of trading this on the broader perspective, looking at it on, say, the 12-hour time frame, you might find yourself having got into a position down here, then not taking profit, then back down again, and not having done anything. So the opportunity that exists here is in terms of that volatility and exploiting it. So what you're looking to then say is, what sort of area and how would I exploit this, determined by, you know, how I'm feeling that day, what my plans are, etc., what the markets look like, etc., etc., etc. But actually here in terms of this one, that's a great opportunity and lovely for it, and that's maybe been exploited in a sense with this, we know, by not exploited, but this opportunity has been taken heartily by people on the leverage exchanges out there as well, kind of scalping away and taking advantage of it, being happy. But you don't even need to, because we're not talking about 1 or 2% moves, which are still relatively, from a historical standpoint, really big moves to be having. What we're actually talking about is like 10% moves that could happen if you actually catch a wave at one point. And if you've been looking at this from that point of view, then cool, great, right? But if maybe perhaps you're looking at it from the point of view of where this could start to turn towards the top side, and it's not then completely outlandish to start making assessments of that, taking in the actual highs and lows, then here dragging that up to match. We can see that the 236 here lines up structurally where the last time we had a decent sort of, you know, a heartbeat came in here, is, you know, and then of course we've moved up the way, but big distance away. Okay, so that's the top end there. This is like represents an opportunity towards the top side. From here beyond that zone represents these opportunities, you know. So if we manage to sustain price action above the 236 at any given time, it opens up the opportunity for subsequent moves of 10%, you know, 20%, 25%, etc., whatever it could then happen to be afterwards. And that's a fantastic opportunity. And in the meantime, what we can do is look between the last, you know, couple of little areas and say, where could we potentially go if we actually manage to do something in an intermediate term basis. Okay, so this is from a very big steep point of view. Maybe if we look at it from the last time when we actually had that zone, oops, just at our 236 over there, take it from that high all the way down to the low, we could maybe get some other idea, for instance, and build up a bit of a picture. So come back down to our low here, we can see that from that point of view, the 236 is just in here where we found our body. This area we closed just below that 236, moved up, opened just above it, and that's great. But then when we came back into trading, we see that the prices slammed right down through that, and then subsequently have come up and found resistance at that area. If we can move up the way, that would be good, but this is still clearly down so far. So what are we still looking for? Is there anything else that could give us a glimmer of hope? Is there this low here on this time frame divergent? Well, on the RSI, no, this is the downward trend here, and we're not seeing anything like that. Let's just jump down towards the 4-hour time frames. That'd be a bit better. Then yeah, cool. Okay, so the MACD kind of saying, "Whoa, look at me." The for sure, the MFI giving us another dose of the same bit of medicine, so that's lovely as well. So that's two good ones. Then as well, that right, fine, we talked about that. Then did we? I think we did. Then we have the DMI here giving us this sort of signal saying, well, if we push past this zone, right, and then actually manage to bring the ADX up to this point at the 236, fairly strong chance that we'll come back and retest that 236 as a movement up the way, and getting two of those at once with the movement towards the top side could bring the ADX up towards this purple line here at the 20. That would be so fantastic to see if we needed to see this subsequent retest and give you those second set of moves with the perfect set of signals where the rest of the market's going to come in first. So you can see the dynamic at play between these zones here, that we do indeed have a 4-hour trend towards the downside, very clear. There is the potential for this divergence play between the last lows. Could we do it? If we do, then the risk that you're taking on is all going to be bound by different sort of by what sort of particular narrative amongst all of those different ones appeals to you the most. Then taking in a move as that's a short move, but you could say you could have been sort of shorting it off the back of the 236 over there and saying a couple of little things like, if you move past the 38, well, that's the thing. Wouldn't just be sort of gloriously diving into anything in the face of this down the way, having just spent the last 5 minutes talking about the chances of us getting a move towards the top side in on its first test of it. So looking at this on the 4-hour time frame and bearing in mind that there's this area just here, how did the prices actually perform in at that candle, and jumping down towards the 50-minute time frame, you can see that, well, we came up towards the high. There was an opportunity here at 1:30 to look at it and say, how are we doing? Then we had an opportunity at 2:15 to say the same thing. 2:45, 3 o'clock, the movement's down the way, then past us there at 3:15. So there's a whole chunk of time. So if this was on a daily basis, you'd be looking at it across the period of the cuts of a week to make your decision up. This is a 50-minute time frame, and you're talking about how you've got a couple of hours. That's not bad, right? At this point here before going down the way, and then of course what we're talking about here is if you were to have got into a short at that zone, and me saying, well, I wouldn't do it on its first test of it necessarily, and as we can see, quite rightly so, we were still moving towards the top side. And while that was an area to be looking at, you can understand why people took profit here, sure, but then waited for it to come up and then retest and move back down before they actually sort of decided that they'll short it from there, if that was how those people were thinking along those lines at that time. So that's the overall story there. That should help you no matter what time frame you're trading it on both directions, whether that's towards the downside or the top side. And all the way up as far as, I don't know, like we were talking about things on the daily time frame, etc. at the start of this, were we not? So I think we have discussed it. I think we probably discussed even targets. Did we talk about these targets up here, where you could be going up towards? Well, if we didn't, then certainly we've talked enough about how you would come to those conclusions and how things might work to get you up towards those targets across the episodes that we've the coins we've looked at today already, so you should be kind of more or less well placed to be able to extrapolate out all that information and apply it to this if we haven't talked about it in detail here already. Okay, that's how I do it. So I'm a little bit less amateur when it comes to this particular gig, I suppose, than what you were saying there, but also not financial advice. Okay, so it's not financial advice from me either, just like Trey said earlier on. But that's it. Oh, Trey then says that's exactly what I've been playing. Almost predictable moves. Wow, well done. That's fantastic. Then 10 out of 10. Great trading. Great trading, right? Great trading. I didn't know that's what you were doing, but that's what I was saying would be great. And now we're at the point, of course, well, like, you can resume business as usual whenever you like, right? I kind of probably talked about it from the point of view where you're looking at it then. Great. Then give yourself a pat on the back. SB, yo peeps, the Allen Corp. Harmony 1. That's right. Talked about it earlier on. Oh, check it out, Trey. Look at this. Look at that, everybody. It's going to come up in a second here. That's fantastic. So, Tom Bollinger, wasn't he in Platoon? Says SB. Was he? Is that right? What happens when the Golden Pocket GP Golden Pocket rocket? It can do. I was explaining how there's often a dynamic between. I'm coming around to your message in second, Trey, when it appears on my screen. Don't know why it hasn't yet. There's a dynamic often when you're looking at retraces, especially if you're looking at a retrace, which is a classic retrace of where it's respected the Fibonacci area of the 618, where then the retrace against that retrace, so you've moved up and then you've moved down. So the retrace against that retrace is going to be the 236 you're looking to break to go towards the top side, and that's going to line up with the 618. Etc., etc. And it just is always that dynamic there. So when you kind of measure it out and look across them, then you can see that quite often that is the case, pushing past 618. But of course, that depends on the particular dynamics of the market leading up to that point, if they've been following along with that schedule, if you will, of movements. And where is the super chat from Trey P? Why is it not showing up? I'm going to just read it out manually. That's frustrating. Thanks, buddy. I've been making moves on the shorter time frame in both directions. Have a brew on me and one from the rest of us. Thank you so much. So SB, did you see that? Did you see where I was talking about Harmony 1 earlier on? Because I talked about it quite a bit. Right, it's in this episode. It sure is. Well, how long are we into this episode? An hour. Perfect. That's great. Actually, tell you what, I'll be tuning out now. That's fantastic. If anybody else wants me to take a look at anything else, go ahead and drop me a tip, just like Trey P did there. His name is, of course, Trey or Trip to his friends and that's all good. So say hello and all that in there if you haven't already. Oh, hey Drew's Tech, good to see you there. I see Trey Spot did say hello to Trey there as well. Actually, that's good stuff. Excellent, nice one. Great, yeah. So I'll probably be tuning out in the next minute or two. That was a really pretty good hour, I think, of TA. Opportunity there for anybody to ask questions about what they would have been looking to get. Yeah, man, the Allen Corp. I checked out Harmony 1. Fan dabby dozy stuff that I did. I checked it out, talked about the dynamics between its pricing on Bitcoin and the dollar coin. There's a lot of good stuff there. We talked about Holochain as well, which is another great performer. We talked about the dynamics, and check out the episode. It's only an hour long. You learn an awful lot, right? If I just go now, then I think people will be more inclined to watch it, right? So I'm going to bring up the final scene here for people to see. There we go, there's the final scene. And thanks so much to everybody who's a patron. You'll see Trey himself in that list, and Drew, the last couple of people to have got chit chat in there before I moved away off to this final screen. Good to see you, Drew's Tech, for instance. I would really appreciate it if anybody else wanted to sort of pay it forward by joining the Patreon, and actually as well starting off the conversation and chatting in the group there on Discord and all the rest of it. And you can get in touch with me through Patreon, as well as I move my educational chunks that I do to over there, and all that sort of good stuff. It's not as ideal to put videos on Patreon as I thought it would be, after having watched all these other YouTubers talk about Patreon and be thinking, well, it must just be like a case of just hitting there you go, jobs are good in. Well, it doesn't seem to actually be that case at all. I'm also thinking about doing a Patreon only stream as well, and changing the setup a wee bit. I could also make it so that it's members only chat as well. Not that bothered about doing that. I don't think it's a big deal, because what we get here is quite a lot of people who are actually members are the ones that are chatting, and we chat amongst each other. Like, shout out to Drew's Tech, Trey P, for example. So I might turn that on. It'll make it so that you don't get the likes of Will P coming along talking about his hamster love earlier on, messing up my video like a troll. If you know, all fair fun and games and all that, and all the rest of it. But if you've watched this channel before, then you know that I like to cut out little bits and put them up there. And of course, the chat being up there, it's like you know, if you'd wanted to do that on purpose to annoy me, then that would have been the way to do it, I think, probably. Although, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how offensive any of it is. It doesn't offend. It's not offensive. It's just kind of funny. I mean, it's kind of laughable, but it's just not. You know, it's not what we're here for, right? Um, yeah, if you are here at the minute and you've not hit the like button, hit that like button. I'd really appreciate it. And I can see here that there's nobody. I'm missing some of the Discord channels. There's some reorganizing going on. That's right, Drew's Tech. Yeah, I have made it. In fact, I'll just bring it up here. I've made it so majors, minors, exotics, the lab, discussion, and all of them really are for Patreon people only. But you're Drew, right? And you are Patreon, right? Wait a minute. Hold on a second here. Let me just see, for example. Is there some setting here stopping you from seeing permissions? Who can see this channel? These guys can. Supporter level 1, supporter level 2, supporter level 3. Right? So then you are... You're not actually Drusk, are you? Have you changed your name on Patreon to that? Or am I just having a brain fart here and misremembering? Let me just see what rules you are. No role for you. Interesting. Is that yourself? Let me know if that's yourself there. Send me a message and make sure that I've got you on the thingy. That is you. That's you, man. I know it is. Right. That is you, isn't it? Rocky, Jamie, and I am going to follow up this weekend. Both of my guys will be available next week. That's fantastic. Good to know, Trey. Thanks so much for that. We'll of course sort it all out. I'm pretty sure that's you. I'm putting you to supporter level 1 because I think that's what your level is on the Patreon, and you should be there. Don't know why you weren't. Thanks very much for bringing that up. I'm going to have to make sure that the other people that should be seeing that are seeing that in there. If anybody else is in the Discord and has got a problem with that, let me know. Okay, because we can't be having that, can we? Excellent, good stuff, Trey. Thanks so much for that reminder. That'll be cool. We'll catch up. We will catch up and have a chit chat as well. Anybody else that's interested, by the way, still taking feedback and talking to people, discussing this wonderful thing over here. This is, of course, the Picnic Network white paper website. You can find it at docs.picnic.network. And I'll just copy that and paste it in the chit chat for anybody who's looking to read along. By the way, thanks again for your feedback, Drew, for example. And thanks for letting me know. Honestly, I didn't realize that was the case, and my apologies to anybody else. I just thought it did it, you know. I thought it did it, and I thought I'd seen it working, and so I'm going to have to double check. Yeah, and by the way, thanks so much for your feedback as well, Drew, on the document as well the other day. I do read all these things. I'm sorry for not having responded sort of one-to-one with everybody, and I massively appreciate the people getting in touch. People getting in touch with me to discuss things as well. Got another couple of people getting in touch with me recently to ask me to sponsor certain things. For instance, this guy over here, who asked me how much would it be to get a shout out for his channel on YouTube, which makes me think that his channel on YouTube is perhaps, you know, because he could have come in here and we could have talked about it as well. So I'm going to have to check out his channel myself and see what's going on over there. Also got a couple of other sort of ones. I get them quite frequently, and I don't take them, you know, because it's not worth my time necessarily, to be honest with you. But I am wanting to, as you can see, this last 10 minutes of the show here has been sort of commercially focused on my own part. That's right, because that's what I'm trying to do here, trying to make it so that the channel is its own sort of financial success. And I think, why not? I think it deserves it. I think it should be. And if you don't, that's cool. We can talk about it, and I can figure out why. But I'm pretty sure it should be, and that's what I'm working towards making it. And that on that front, I'll just say cheerio actually to everybody, and a big thanks to these guys who are chatting at the end. And as you can see here, there's a lot of value to be had. They really value the content. I really value every single last one of you for tuning in. Best audience ever, really. You know, these are 12 concurrent viewers, best audience ever. I massively appreciate it. And I'll see you again for the next one. You know me, I'm here for you. It will be funny, won't it, whenever there's hundreds of people. I do think at some point in the future there'll be hundreds of people tuned into one of these. I have got no idea why there isn't any time. I really don't. It's so funny. But anyway, at some point there will be, and that'll be mad. It'll be mad. Anyway, be mad. Right, cool. Oh, well, there's me looking over at the camera, talking to the camera, smiling at the camera, waving at the camera, and the camera's not on. Right, that's cool. Excellent. Thanks so much for tuning in. Really do appreciate it. See you in the next one. I don't know if I'll bother making clips out of it after Will P with his stupid comments, but maybe I will. I don't know.